Israel has moved troops, tanks and other military hardware to the border with the Gaza Strip as it prepares for a possible ground invasion of the Palestinian territory.
NATO allies express solidarity with Israel but warn its response has to be proportionate.
The IOC's executive board suspends the Russian Olympic Committee with immediate effect.
Israel has ordered 1.1 million people living in northern Gaza to evacuate to the south of the enclave within 24 hours, but the United Nations warns there will be devastating humanitarian consequences. On Thursday, Israel amassed more troops and military hardware on the border with Gaza. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has vowed to crush the Hamas military group after its ferocious attack last weekend.
עזה לא תיראה אותו הדבר. אנחנו נגיע למצב בו מי שהנהיג את עזה יוכה קשה, נפרק אותו. ומי שישאר שם יבין היטב שדבר כזה לא עושים למדינת ישראל.
The intense military response to the surprise Hamas attack has left Palestinians isolated in Gaza. Israel has cut power and water supplies to the territory, home to over 2 million people. Palestinian officials say at least 1,500 people have been killed, a third of them children, in Israeli attacks. In his first public comments, the president of the Palestinian Authority called Thursday for an immediate end to aggression against Palestinians. During a meeting in Amman with King Abdul II of Jordan, Mahmoud Abbas rejected practices that consist of killing or abusing civilians in either camp. He also called for the release of civilian prisoners and detainees.
Tension between communities is running higher and higher in the divided city of Jerusalem. This Thursday night, 2 Palestinian men were killed after shooting incidents with the police in front of a police station just outside the old city of Jerusalem, and 6 police officers were injured, one of them in critical condition. And it's the second such incident this week. On Tuesday, 2 other Palestinian men were killed by the police after throwing rocks and fireworks at them. So there is a lot of anxiety amongst the population in Jerusalem, and actually the streets are unusually quiet. You can hardly see any cars driving around, and people are very much staying at home. And now there is a lot of fear as what could happen over the weekend. It is a prayer day for the Muslims on Friday and Shabbat for the Jews on Saturday. And it will be the first, religious celebrations since the first attacks occurred. So nobody knows what might happen, but in any case, security is at a maximum level in the capital. I'm Valerie Goria in Jerusalem for Euronews.
Israel continues its retribution on the Gaza Strip, this time targeting the port with boats going up in flames. Any position linked one way or another to Hamas and other Palestinian militias is a target. This comes after Israel suffered its biggest terrorist attack in its history, killing over 1,300 Israelis. Now it's the 2 million inhabitants of the Strip who will pay the price, with a total siege ordered by Israel. The move has been widely criticised as it will mainly affect civilians, including women and children.
We are operating militarily according to rules of international law, period, unequivocally. But we're at war. We are at war. We're at war we are defending our homes. We're protecting our homes. That's the truth. And then when a nation protects its home, it fights. And we will fight until we break their backbone.
Israel has deployed 300,000 soldiers to its borders in what is being presented as a future invasion of Gaza. It is also distributing weapons among authorized people in kibbutz near the border, in these images near Lebanon.
NATO is warning that hostile nations like Iran or groups like Hezbollah might take advantage of the armed conflict between Hamas and Israel. Although NATO was not directly involved in the Middle East conflict, the US has stepped up military presence in the region. The Israeli defense minister joined a meeting of NATO allies where he showed fellow ministers a video of a Hamas massacre. Member states called for Israel to respond to Hamas attacks proportionately.
We saw a shocking video, and of course the reports are shocking, and that's also the reason why allies have so strongly condemned these horrific terrorist attacks against civilians in Israel and against Israel. As this conflict evolves, it is important to protect civilians, and this was also clearly expressed by allies. There are rules of war, there are the requests for proportionality, and this was highlighted by many allies.
NATO also says they're alert to the recent damage to an undersea gas pipeline between Finland and Estonia. Secretary-General Jens Stoltenberg says NATO will respond if the attack proves to be a deliberate sabotage.
It is obvious that gas pipelines, power cables, internet cables, these types of undersea infrastructure are of critical importance for our societies. So this has been an issue which has been high on the NATO agenda, part of our efforts related to resilience for many years, and many things have been done to protect this critical infrastructure.
A surprise attendance at the summit by Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky proved fruitful, with the US announcing $200 million of extra military aid to Ukraine. In addition, over €100 million was pledged by the Ukraine Contact Group, and Germany has considerably stepped up its support. Shona Murray, Euronews, NATO.
The IOC's executive board has suspended the Russian Olympic Committee with immediate effect until further notice. This decision follows the ROC's recognition of regional sports organisations in 4 Ukrainian territories that Russia has claimed to have annexed since the full-scale invasion in 2022. Speaking after the opening day of an executive board meeting in Mumbai, IOC spokesman Mark Adams made the announcement whilst highlighting the consequences.
The Russian Olympic Committee is no longer entitled to operate as a national Olympic committee, as defined in the Olympic Charter, and cannot receive any funding from the Olympic movement.
Adams added that the suspension hadn't yet affected the possibility of neutral Russian athletes competing at next year's Paris Olympics. Currently, IOC sanctions mean no international sporting events can be organised in either Russia or Belarus, whilst the flags and national anthems of both countries must not be used.
Sunday's election in Poland could be crucial for the future of the EU. The country's 2 main parties, the Conservative Nationalist right-wing Law and Justice Party, currently in power, and the liberal pro-European right-wing Civil Platform are both unlikely to be able to form a government alone. Members of the European Parliament realise the importance of the vote, but are all hoping for different outcomes.
La Polonia ha acquisito in quest'ultimo anno e mezzo un ruolo ancora più importante per la sua fortissima opposizione alle politiche espansioniste di Putin in Ucraina, e quindi una conferma della maggioranza di governo andrebbe in continuità con questa scelta e sarebbe certamente un fattore di stabilità per la postura geopolitica dell'Unione Europea nel suo complesso.
I would say that the main difference is that the current opposition has clearly taken a constructive stance when it comes to engaging on the European level. So when we see the challenges that are ahead of us, be it around the question how are we going to shape the green transformation, migration politics, also other issues, they have maybe taken conservative standpoints, but they are constructive in engaging on the European level.
The current Polish government has been taking a hostile attitude towards the EU for many years now. The main clash between Warsaw and Brussels concerns respect for the rule of law and independence of the judiciary from political influence.
Continue violazioni a un certo punto genereranno delle tensioni anche con gli altri Paesi membri dell'Unione e alla fine, a mio parere, si potrebbero creare anche dei problemi nei meccanismi di funzionamento dell'Unione, che funziona ad oggi con un costante assedio all'interno, no? Da parte di uno dei Paesi membri.
On Sunday, Brussels will keep an eye not only on the elections but also on the Polish government's referendum, which contains 4 questions. One of which will ask Poles if they support the admission of what the government calls illegal immigrants from the Middle East and Africa, in line with the EU's mandatory relocation rules designed to ease the burden on the bloc's border countries.
Republican Steve Scalise has pulled out of the race for US House Speaker after meeting fierce resistance from hardliners within his party. The Louisiana congressman narrowly beat far-right candidate Jim Jordan to the party's nomination, but realized on Thursday he wouldn't be able to secure the 217 votes necessary to get elected. Political pressure is mounting on Republicans as the House enters its second week without a speaker, leaving it unable to function during a time of turmoil in the US and overseas.
It's a long way from a cow chopped in half and preserved in a tank of formaldehyde, but these paintings are by Damien Hirst. He may have been the enfant terrible of the British art scene, but now he seems to have calmed down. The Secret Gardens painting series is being shown for the first time at the Frieze London Art Fair, which will run from the 11th to the 15th of October. From small beginnings, Frieze has become an international fair with sister shows in Los Angeles, New York and Seoul.